Hello and welcome to FailRace versus the community. This week was SUV and pickup truck racing. The first race was at Hockenheim Shorts, and as you would imagine it was pretty chaotic at the start line. I am driving the Volkswagen Touareg. TJ is driving the rather bright orange Celine, or red Celine. I think that's red, I'm not colourblind, honest. Anyway, we were fairly well positioned off the start. However, there was a massive crash behind us in which the replay cameras are absolutely useless at showing because, yeah, all the cars are just in front of it. So instead, this is the best angle I could find on it. This is looking back from my car. One of the Raptors either forgot where the corner was or completely outbraked himself, and there was a massive crash that took out most of the field. I think probably 6 or 7, maybe even more cars were involved in that. But yeah, there were a number of broken vehicles after that first corner incident. Mainly the Raptors suffered the most in that. I think there was like 5 Raptors in this race, one of which was completely totaled, and the other 4, which you see here, all suffered quite a lot of damage. This Mercedes, I think, that we're following, it was involved in it, but it got away without any major damage. And the Hummer is a Hummer, so it can withstand pretty much anything. Yeah, the Mercedes was involved quite heavily, but he got away with just aero damage, I think. That car was still pretty damn quick. You can see a lot of the Raptors were smoking, and they've just been unfortunate. This rather bright pink Land Rover was sort of in the middle of the field. Overtaking was a little bit interesting with these sort of cars. I mean, there was always going to be a little bit of argy-bargy going on because these cars are huge and not particularly drivable. These are B-class as well, I should point out. Unfortunately for the Q7, not quite sure what happened there. You don't kind of see it very well, but he got a bit of a nudge and got spun around. However, well done to whoever it was for not coming straight back on the track, actually waiting for there to be space, because that's kind of a very important thing when we do these kind of races. If you end up off the track, please wait to make sure there is space before you come back on to avoid a massive crash. Now, the biggest kind of battle going on throughout the field was for third between a couple of Touaregs and a Jeep. Me and TJ had pretty much broken away at the front, although TJ had gone miles and miles in front of me. The Celines were really quick. However, the Touaregs were doing quite well. I picked the Touareg primarily because it is small and relatively low to the ground, thinking it'll have good handling, which it does. To be honest, the Touaregs are probably the best handling of the cars here. However, they just do not have the speed. As you can see, the Jeep is all over the back of this one. They were quite good cars. Mine was actually not that bad to drive, and these ones here looked pretty good, but they just didn't have the speed of the pickups. The Raptor this is the highest place of the Raptors, I think. They were kind of struggling. A lot of them had suffered quite heavy damage. This one here was making his way through the field, though. The pickup trucks were the fastest cars here. There is no question about it. You see the straight line speed advantage of this Raptor, even though I think it was fairly damaged. Again, it's very hard to tell what cars had what amount of damage because the visual damage is off because we have so many people in the lobby. It's hard to tell. I mean, you could have a damaged engine and not have it quite smoking and we wouldn't know the difference. But yeah, the Raptors were very, very fast, as were the Celines. Yeah, I mean, even despite their size, they were still drivable, and they were making. Look at the sort of the straight line speed of this Raptor as it tries to get past an Audi Q7. Kind of get a little bit chopped up there, and just about manages to save it. So well done to you. There is a broken Raptor somewhere lying about it. There it is. He'd suffered the most damage in that first corner. At this point, I think only one car was totaled. A few had suffered a fair amount of damage. It wasn't long before the Jeep was to make its way past the Touareg as well. Touareg, however it's pronounced, I don't know. You should know by now. I don't know cars. I do know cars, kind of. I just can't pronounce cars. Yeah, this Jeep was pretty quick. If he hadn't been caught up in the order of the crashes at the start, I wonder where this would have ended up, because the Jeep was looking pretty damn fast. And again, the Touaregs were still doing fairly well, which I was pleased with. It was good to see some fellow cars up there. Now, this Land Rover did something rather spectacular. It was on 2 wheels through there, nudges into the Mercedes a little bit, though you don't really have much control of it, and then manages to somehow roll it off the curb. How do you do that? I've never rolled a car there. There's barely even a curb there. When we went past it, well, I thought someone had pushed it or assisted it into a wall, and that's why I'd flipped. But no, he did it completely on his own accord and was now in an absolutely terrible place and unable to move it. Yeah, that's a new place to roll a car. I haven't seen a car rolled off that curb there, which is bizarre. because there's no curb at all. Look, with the TJ's coming around there, there's barely a curb. The damaged Raptor's now going to try and save it, move the Land Rover. Yeah, at the front, TJ had pretty much vanished up the road. I wasn't having a fantastic race. I made a few mistakes, but you could just about see me in the back of the shot there. Can we? Yeah, there we go. I was quite a way in front of third, but TJ was just gone. The Celines are very, very, very fast at this class, which is surprising. I mean, not so much surprising that they're fast in a straight line, but they are a huge car, and the fact they can get around the corners is quite impressive. Further back, I think this is for around 9th or 8th or something like that. It's towards the lower end of the field. The Hummer was amazingly doing fairly well. You know, when I saw a few people had signed up were planning on using Hummers, I was expecting them to be at the back because they're just so heavy. Even with race weight reduction, I think they're still £6,000, which is a lot of car to be moving about. But this Hummer was holding on just about. I mean, it's not the fastest car in a straight line at all. It's probably got to be one of the worst handling as well. But credit to whoever was driving it for kind of keeping up with the field. I think it got involved in that first corner incident as well, so it suffered a fair bit of damage. The Q7, even despite the Raptor having a bad run at that corner, it just couldn't keep up with the pickup trucks. Anyone who was driving the more normal SUV kind of things couldn't keep up with the pickup trucks in a straight line. I'm not sure why. I mean, some of us were probably running more handling parts. I guess maybe that the sort of like the likes of the Raptor are lower PI, so you can do more upgrades to them, but yeah, not really sure on that. Either way, it was a very straightforward win for TJ. He ended up some 1,000 feet in front of me, and I was trying as hard as I could in that race, but yeah, I didn't really stand much of a chance against that thing. In third was a fellow Tuareg, which is always good to see. And amazingly, the Mercedes, who got caught up in all the first corner accidents, had managed to make his way up to fourth. That's very impressive. And how his car hadn't sustained any damage as well, I don't know. And the Tuareg does a little celebratory spin across the line. So we move on to race number 2. This is at Maple Valley. Now, I picked this track thinking, oh, we haven't been here on a Versus the Community yet. This could be quite fun. I quite like this track. I may have forgotten about the curbs here until like a day before the event. So this was going to be an interesting one. If you don't know, if you haven't driven this track particularly, the curbs here are absolutely lethal, as you will see very, very shortly. Off this line, it had actually been a fairly clean start. Everything went a little bit wrong here, as the Land Rover pushed TJ, TJ pushed me, and I pushed the Raptor, and the Raptor ended up in the wall. I think TJ ended up spun and quite broken as well. I got out of this relatively okay. I managed to kind of make a little bit of a break for it, and get a fairly decent lead actually, because there was kind of a fair amount of carnage behind me. It took all of 50 seconds for the curbs to claim their first victim, as the Batman Dodge Ram has a roll and into the wall. Didn't end up on his roof though, so can continue, which is always good. But yeah, the curbs here are very dangerous, and people weren't really listening to my warning of stay off the curbs. That's a pretty mental scene as well to see on a race track. It's a very scary sight. See all of those trucks flying down towards the corner. And it was a couple of corners later where the first victim would be completely totaled, a Ford Raptor. There's a little bit of lag in this one. I think on this it looks like the Raptor lagged into somebody. I suspect on the guy's screen it was that car lagged into him, and puts the Raptor on the grass, and then going sideways in a Raptor at speed on a grass is always going to end up in a flip. So this car was out and then moving across the track. One of the Range Rovers had a broken engine and was unable to climb up the hill, which doesn't really help matters. There was already cars littering the track, and we hadn't even completed lap 1. This is still on lap 1. This is kind of towards the lower end of the field. And as a Celine has had a crash, and that's now rolled, just about managed to stay in one piece. There's a Ram further ahead that's had a spin. The Batman Ram has another flip, and has flip of the afternoon there. Well done. I don't know how you managed that one, but yeah, that one there's now stuck on its side as well. The curves, you can't attack the curves on this track, not with these cars especially. With normal cars it's hard around here. With these you just cannot attack the curves because they roll the cars, and these are sort of high SUVs and trucks, or whatever you want to call them. There was kind of a bit of a race going on here. This is for, I think it's actually for second and further places back. This kind of group here were all fairly close together, with the pink Celine leading. The Celines were really pretty much dominating this race. However, it was all to go very wrong, as the Celine leading the train has a roll going into the bridge and is flipping out of control, ends up coming across the track, hits the Range Rover, and there's another car involved in that as well. I can't see what it was, but yeah, This is a race of survival. This is what it was all about. It was just surviving the race was more important than outright speed. If you can stay off the curbs, stay out of trouble, you were going to end up near the front as cars fell over. This Range Rover here had taken a fair old whack to the engine as the Celine came across the road and was going to get mugged by everything as a Jeep doing a little bit of rally crossing there, just about manages to make its way past. But yeah, it was a slightly different sort of race, this one. More about staying off the curves than outright speed. This is just after these two had managed to mug the Land Rover. The chicane claimed one victim and then another, as the Jeep is pretty much destroyed and the Raptor's on its roof. Yeah, that wasn't too successful. And then the Range Rover thing managed to get back past the pair of them. So avoid the curbs. Nobody listens to avoiding the curbs. I think it'd be more fun just to have a camera here to watch the entire race, as the Ram nearly went. Just about managed to save that one. And what have we got next? Celine? You avoided the curbs, you see? That's what you're supposed to do with, with these cars around this track. As far as actual racing goes, this was the only battle on the track that I could find. This is for now what was third position between a Celine and the Touareg that came third in the first race. It had kind of ended up as an impromptu obstacle course race, as broken cars littered the track and upside down cars were all in the wrong place. Yeah, this one claimed many victims around this track. You've just got to avoid the curbs. Yeah, it's fairly straightforward. I mean, okay, these cars aren't the easiest thing in the world to drive, but if it means going a little bit slower, it's better to avoid the curbs and not roll it, as the Celine gets on two wheels through there. Yeah, as far as racing goes, this was very, very close there. I had pretty much just got to the front and was taking things cautiously. I was a fair way in front, but I was being caught up by... There was a grey Celine that managed to get away with no damage. I think there's only one car that had no damage in this entire race. I had aero damage from the start. These two had varying levels of damage. I think at one point this Celine that we're following had a smoking engine. Oh, the replays are funny when it comes to damage. I am not 100% sure on levels of damage on cars, but I think pretty much everybody, with the exception of one car, had varying levels of damage. This is around 10th place, I think, between two of the trucks. It might be higher actually, as cars fell out of sort of the running. And the Rams had a flip. I think that's the third time I've seen him on two wheels through there, and then in a very, very awkward place. That is not a place you want to be crashed, because he can't move it, he can't do anything about it, and that corner, as you come round there, it's completely blind, so you cannot see that there is a car on its side, kind of in the middle of the road. This Jeep had a crash on his own accord. I think this is just after he came out of the pits after repairing his vehicle, and that's not gone so well. I haven't seen a car roll off that curb, actually. That's a weird place to roll, and again, another pretty bad place to be parked, as a rather smoky Celine goes past. The battle for third, though, was still raging on. This went on for most of the race. However, it all went wrong at the chicane. The Celine manages to avoid. Well done for avoiding the Ram. The Touareg was already rolling when it hit the Ram. Now they're in an even worse place, because the Ram can't move at all and is even more in the middle of the road. He's trying to get out of the way. Here's TJ, who does a spectacular save. Well done on saving that, and then clatters the back of the Ram. TJ fell down the order with a broken engine and had to go to the pits. The Ram was now out of the way, so well done for clearing the traffic there. With that, that's probably the most on two wheels I've seen a car that's been saved. That was very spectacular. Now at the front, this is on lap 5. As I said, I've been taking things fairly cautiously. It was just a case of survive, especially after I got lucky at the start and managed to make a break. However, the silver Celine that you see in the background was incredibly fast and was catching me. I think by the end of it, he was 3 seconds a lap faster than me. Or had a lap 3 seconds faster than me. Admittedly, I was taking things a little bit easy, but yeah, the Celines were really, really quick, and I was doing everything I could to kind of stay in front of him. However, there is a problem with this race's replay. As you might have seen with the Will It Roll we did a couple of days ago, the replay sometimes cut off. Normally it's around sort of the 30-minute mark. However, this one here, I've just put the thing on the screen now. This is lap 5 out of 6. This is 8 minutes, or 8 minutes 50, should I say, and the replay's gone. And that's it. It gives up. I don't know why it did it. And then the race just restarts. I mean, I believe the reason why the replays cut off is there's a certain file size they can be. But yeah, quite after 8 minutes. Why? I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one. It's a shame because there was a fantastic battle between me and the Sleen on the final lap. I was basically defending for my life trying to keep that thing behind me, and it was very, very close. Only 2 of us actually finished the race with, I think, maybe 3. It was a minute and a half end of race time, and only 3 of us finished, I think. So yeah, I don't know what was going on with that replay. I think maybe with so many cars crashed and broken, that took up extra space. I don't know. It's very hard to say why, which is a shame though, because it was a very, very good final lap. However, moving on to the next race. This one here, the replay is fine for. It is the Twin Ring Monteghi East circuit. I think it's East or West. I can't remember the blooming names of these things. It's one of the slightly shortened versions. A track that I don't really like particularly, but we haven't driven this track, I don't think, for ages in a video, so we were going to give it a go. Again, me and TJ both had fairly good starting positions on the grid. The grids were random, and yeah, again, we started sort of in the top 4. The first corner was pretty clean on the most part. We'll get to that in a little bit. I managed to go right around the outside of the rather neon Touareg. I'm quite pleased with that overtaking manoeuvre. There's a little bit of panel rubbing between cars and here, but it's kind of expected when you're racing massive SUVs. As I said, the first corner was relatively clean. However, further back there was a little bit of a lagging-induced roll. I'm not really sure what happened going on here between a couple of the Raptors, and there's a Range Rover in there as well. The replay camera doesn't have a clue what to do. Yeah, not really sure on this one. It seemed a little bit laggy on the replays, which certainly doesn't help, as 4 cars tried to fit into the same bit of track. In the end, this Raptor is now stuck on his side and cannot move. Luckily, the track's kind of sloped down and it kind of rolls out of the way of the circuit, which is very good. Further around the first lap, and this race was actually turning out to be more how I'd hoped things would be. Less with the massive crashing and more with some actually fairly close racing. This is for like about 2nd to 7th. TJ was gone again. I cannot do anything about that Sleen. That is monstrously fast. And again, there was all the pickup trucks. There was 2 of us in Touaregs that were trying to hold them off, but you really cannot do much about it. The Rams were also pretty damn quick. I think the Sleens were really the car you wanted to have for this race. You can see as they come out of whichever corner number that is. They're both going to try and mug the Touareg. One go around the outside, one on the inside. Pretty scary trying to do that. Eventually the Touareg outbreaks himself, runs a little bit wide and gives most of the positions away, and then end up falling to the back of the train. Yeah, this was by far the best battle of the entire evening, night, afternoon, depending on where you were. Next corner, and I was become under increasing pressure from the pickup trucks. I tried to defend as best I could, ran a little bit wide. There was very little I could do. In the end, we go 3 wide to that corner. That was scary. How we got through that, I don't know. Overtake of the evening, night, afternoon for that one there. That was a rather scary moment. Again, there's a little bit of panel rubbing. I'll go very sideways through there. That's not what you want to be doing. You get mugged by a Dodge Ram, and there's another Raptor. I was basically defending the entire time in the Plymouth Touareg. Also, the Touareg isn't exactly a small car, but compared to everything, it was tiny. It looks absolutely tiny compared to these Sleens and Rams. Luckily for me, the Sleen managed to outbrake himself, so I could just about hold on to 4th place. But yeah, I was falling through the order rather rapidly with this car. At the back, I hadn't actually realised this track didn't have a pit lane. Or it has a pit lane there, but it's not usable. So the cars that were damaged couldn't repair themselves. I'm sorry, I didn't actually know the pit lane wasn't usable. So yeah, there were some slightly damaged, or quite heavily damaged cars that couldn't really get fixed. A little bit of a kind of an attempt at an overtake there. Not the cleanest of overtaking going on, kind of further down the order. And then there's another crash, and the Land Rover gets put into the wall. How these cars were still going, I don't know. The telemetry showed them as having an awful lot of damage, and yet they were still going at relative speed. I don't know how that works, but well done to the cars for keeping going. There's still a big group battle going on, kind of here. I was trying to hold on to the Ram and the Sleen ahead. There's another 3 cars kind of further back, another 2 Sleens and a Raptor in this one. Yeah, this was by far the closest race of the evening, primarily because there weren't too many cars that fell over in case of Maple Valley or had a big crash on the first lap. The Sleens though were pretty dominant. This rather pink Sleen was kind of chasing down a Raptor who helpfully outbraked himself. A little bit of rallycross going on in that first corner. That first corner is terribly hard. It's really quite a nasty corner because it's kind of unsighted. Also, I hadn't driven particularly that many laps around here. I don't know how many practice laps people had around here. Very hard getting your braking points right in, well, massive trucks. and the Raptor was trying to have a look through the chicanes. Now, you're never really going to overtake through there. It's a very tricky place overtaking through those chicanes because they're pretty much flat out. When it comes to the straight, though, you can see how much the Selines pull away. Even with a bad exit out of that corner, which the pink Celine had, we're still pulling away in a straight line. And as far as defending going, a Celine is a pretty good car because it's massive. In fact, the Ram's not small either. When it came to defending, you could pretty much take up most of the road because these cars were huge. The Raptor actually outbrakes himself a little bit. This is a lap later, and still these two were arguing over what is 5th. I'm trying to count positions now. I think this was 5th. This time the Raptor manages to hold the Celine off. You come through the chicanes though, and the Raptor manages to get itself onto 2 wheels. Well done. How have you done that on a curb that's completely flat? I don't know how you're managing to do that, but never mind. As these two battled, actually, they were falling sort of further and further behind the 3rd and 4th and well, I've forgotten the places. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. There we go. They were kind of slowing each other down. And there was the grey Celine in there for good measure as well. There was much less damage in this race, which is good to see. Between all these cars, most of the cars were in fairly good condition that were kind of towards the front. As we move on to the final lap now, this was for 2nd place. I'd made a few mistakes and fallen back a little bit. A little bit of a dubious manoeuvre from the Celine as it kind of turns in, and the Ram in the end gets spun onto the grass. No one takes any major damage. The Ram can kind of recover itself and then ended up right behind me, which was nice. TJ is gone again in the distance. You can just about see him over there somewhere. TJ was liking these cars. And as we round the final corner, yeah, TJ had a huge lead again in this one. Had a fairly boring race, other than from the start. Yeah, fairly uneventful, fairly straightforward race for TJ. And it was another win. So there's 2 wins on the evening for him, which are pretty successful, I would say. And then the Nürburgring Celine came in 2nd. I had a very scary last half a lap with a Ram that was much faster behind me. I managed to just about hold him off, or more to the point, he didn't have enough time to get past me. If it had been another lap, I think the Ram would have got me, and possibly the Raptor that was behind that. In the end, the pink Celine managed to just about hold off the silver one. But it was a very good race, actually, this one. It was quite fun. And it was relatively close as well. Although I was like 2 seconds a lap slower than everybody in my blooming Tuareg. I'm not going to be using that car again if we ever do this again, because it's not fast, or not fast enough. It's a good car, it's not fast enough. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching. Next week's Versus the Community is going to be lightweights. Any car that weighs less than £2,000. Now, normally I would ban leaderboard cars. However, most of the leaderboard is made up of cars that weigh less than £2,000. So I can't really. I'm going to say that if you are likely to be sort of one of the faster drivers, don't use the fastest cars, because there's nothing more boring than just being at the front and driving around on your own. I would much rather be in battling for 6th and 7th and 8th than I would be just at the front with nobody around, because it gets terribly boring. So yeah, if you know you're likely to be a very fast driver, try and avoid the leaderboard cars. Go for something a little bit different. Go for something a little bit more interesting, so you can have a good race. Now, we're going to be making these to B class. Because I like B class. I think it's a good sort of class. It gives you a good amount of upgrades without the cars being too powerful, and it also means that you have to make a choice. Do you go for more power or do you go for more handling, which I always like. It's always interesting to see what people have gone for. Tracks I haven't decided upon yet, however they will be on the forums. I'm trying to think other information. Yeah, if your car weighs more than £2,000 to start with, then you can put weight reduction parts in and can make it less than £2,000. However, I will check and make sure that the car's actually capable of being less than £2,000. If you wish to sign up for this race, I will put a link in the description to our forums. There is a section there for where you can sign up. And then it will all be organised through there. It is a much easier way of doing things. If you haven't become a member of our forums, then we recommend you do, because you can sign up to all sorts of events that go on, and also it's a good way of getting in contact with us because we check there regularly. As far as timing goes for this one, it will be held on the 25th, yes, 25th of July, which is a Thursday, back to our normal time of 7 PM English time, because it's just much easier for us. This race here was held at a better time for the Americans and Australians. Well, I'm sorry for the time zones, but we're doing the best we can, but we can't run all races at midnight because people have to go, and I have to go to sleep sometime. So yes, it will be held at the normal time on Thursday the 25th. I apologise to anybody who couldn't get connected to this race, who wanted to. You know what Forza servers are like. We do our best to get everybody who wants to race connected at some point. However, it just doesn't work all the time. We try restarting the lobbies and that sort of thing, but unfortunately some people can't get connected. So hopefully next week's one will be different and better. There will be better connection. So yes, I hope to see many of you there. However, until next time, goodbye.